What is the anime defender's effect? It's a ravenous disease, a plague consuming every anime tower defense game it touches, and in this video, we'll be doing a case study into the phenomenon of the anime defender's effect. Before we get into this discussion, we have to first truly define what the anime defender's effect is, and the definition that I could best word together is a phenomenon in the Roblox game community where developers are forced to rapidly alter or redesign character models and assets in order to avoid IP infringement. This typically occurs due to legal pressures and concerns from major anime IP holders. And the reason that we've dubbed this effect the Anime Defenders one is because Anime Defenders was once an extremely popular anime tower defense game, which notably had to overhaul a lot of their unit models in order to comply with copyright regulations. This would end up being one of the main things that ended up killing the game because people weren't happy playing with characters that they couldn't recognize and not the beloved anime characters that they came here for. Now that we have a firm grasp on what this effect actually is, I've been able to narrow it down into 3 stages, each of which I will elaborate on into the video, so let's not waste any more time and get into stage 1. Stage 1 marks the very beginning of the sickness taking place, and it's when you very slowly and subtly start seeing certain units be changed, altered in any way, shape, or form in order to not get in trouble with DMCA, copyright strikes, or IP infringement. The thing about stage 1 is that it's really not that big of a deal and most people don't bat an eye, because while you're in stage 1, most if not all of the characters are still very much recognizable to their real anime counterparts. It's just that the difference is noticeable, but the fact that it's noticeable doesn't mean that it derives from the experience itself or makes the game any less fun, but this is stage 1, and it's when you can start observing those noticeable signs that, this game is subtly changing. They are shadow changing units one by one, and the only reason that this could be is because the anime defender's effect is taking place. And while I'm talking about this, I will put some images up on the screen right now to showcase what I mean, most famously of which happened recently, was Anime Rangers X. I'm going to put some screenshots of some units that they had to remodel, and you can still very much tell who these units are supposed to be, right? Master Roshi looks like Master Roshi. Katakuri looks like Katakuri. Shanks, I thought he only had one arm, but you can still tell that it's Shanks. Broly looks like Broly. The point that I'm trying to make is that you can still very much tell what these characters are supposed to be, but the key distinction and difference between their original models and the remodels is that it just looks worse. These models are not as good as the ones that they had before the DMCA shut down, and that's why I would categorize this as stage 1. Because something else that's important to note about the anime defender's effect, it's always for the worse. I don't think there's ever a single instance where having to change your models to a very noticeable degree so you don't get sued is a good thing, right? And I've said this once, I'll say it again. These anime tower defense games and literally every single anime game on Roblox is built on a foundation of theft because you're stealing IP copyrighted characters that don't belong to you. So when the anime defender's effect takes place, it's sort of just consequences of your own actions type thing, but that doesn't mean that the models ever look better. I don't think I've ever seen an instance where remodels beat the original anime model. And there's a reason that these games release with the original as close to the source material models as possible, because that's what people like. People don't play anime games on Roblox to explore new original character designs that they've never seen before. You know, spoiler alert, that's not really what people want or care for. I do want to bring this image from Anime Vanguards to your attention because you might have noticed that I categorized it as stage 1 and I just went into very graphic detail about why the anime defender's effect is always harmful towards a game. So why am I saying Anime Vanguards is at stage 1? Well, if you look at this model for Katakuri, which is a new unit that they plan on adding in update 5.5, presumably for World Lines, it does not look like a one-to-one copy of Katakuri from One Piece. And obviously this isn't because they lack the ability to make a model that's more true to the character design from One Piece, but it's because they don't want to get sued. And when you're adding something from an anime as big as One Piece, you are very liable to get in trouble if you start just blatantly ripping off their character designs. So what did they do? They voluntarily infected themselves with stage 1. This is honestly one of the first cases that I've seen of this, where a game preemptively adds a model that's already altered in order to avoid legal trouble. And like I said, it's understandable why they're doing this. In a perfect world, Roblox would have a special agreement with every anime company in the world to just let us make games with any character imaginable and not get in trouble. Will that ever happen? No. That's big emphasis on perfect world, but you get what I'm trying to say. This Katakuri model is different. It is a remodel. It is a redesign from the original Katakuri from One Piece. Is it still recognizable? Absolutely, which is again why I only categorize it as a stage 1. And it doesn't even look bad, right? Most remodels look really bad. This one is, I think, as close to the source material as you can get. They're still treading a very fine line. You look at this, you can very clearly tell it's Katakuri, especially with the little doe arms that he's summoning out of the sky. This is an example of stage 1, but I think it is probably as best... This is an example of stage 1, but I think this is as harmless as you could have made it for the state of the game, because it looks as close to the original thing as possible. It doesn't look ugly. I still see people pretty content with this model. I don't see too many people complaining about it. So, although it is stage 1, it's not the end of the world. And I will note that same logic applies to Anime Rangers X, although they did have to change a lot of models, and in their case, it does look considerably worse. Still not the end of the world. The game is averaging like well over 90, 100k players at the time that I'm recording this video. So the numbers speak for themselves. People are still enjoying this game. People are still playing the game. So stage 1 is not a make or break for any game that gets infected by the disease. At stage 1, you're still chilling, but it's noticeable. And it's a slippery slope, which is why you have to be careful as to not dive deeper into the pipeline. And with that being said, let's move into stage 2. Stage 2 is when the models for a game are completely unrecognizable to what they're actually supposed to be. And I know when you hear me saying that, you're going to be like, shouldn't that be the final stage? Shouldn't that be stage 3? But here's the thing. Stage 3 isn't just about whether the game looks different or not. It's about the long-lasting effects that it has on that game and how it ultimately kills it, which is what I'll speak more upon in the final stage. Stage 2 is when the models are so different that it looks like a parody of the original character, but the key difference between stage 2 and stage 3 is that stage 2 doesn't necessarily kill a game. I think once you reach stage 3 of the enemy defenders effect, there is practically no coming back from where you're at. Right, once you're at stage 3, you're 6 feet under, it's over, it's done, GG's. Stage 2 is kind of like, ooh, we're treading a fine line, but if you play your cards right, you'll be completely fine and nothing's going to happen to you. The best example that I can think of a stage 2 infection of the AD effect is gonna have to be ALS. And the reason I use ALS as an example, I'm gonna put some pictures on the screen right now. Can you tell that this is supposed to be Frieza? Absolutely not. Does this look like Luffy to you? Does this look like Shanks to you? Right, these models, I'll put a Smoker on the screen as well. It's another example. Little common denominator between a lot of redesigns, most of them end up being One Piece, go figure, but you can get the point that I'm still trying to make. These models look nothing, and absolutely nothing like the OG One Piece characters. And the reason that they had to do it, once again, don't have a clear-cut reason. Common sense tells us they just didn't want to get in legal trouble, but these models are just bad. These are not good-looking models. They don't look anything like the character. They don't even look good. But ALS is thriving. ALS is more than alive. They are chilling. They are absolutely chilling. Right now, they're sitting at a very comfortable like 45k, 40k concurrent players, which is a lot. And on top of that, they keep those player counts very, very consistent. They update weekly. I think the reason that ALS is able to get away with some of the really horrendous remodels that they have is just the fact that they pump out so much new content. And every single one of the new units looks pretty close to whatever anime they were going for. It's really not an issue, but it's important to note that they are definitely in stage 2 because not only have they had to remodel units, they've had to do it to the point where they are completely unrecognizable to what they were actually supposed to be in the anime. So now we're at a point where it's like, ooh, damn, you know, this is it, huh? And the thing about stage 2, it's more of a slippery slope than stage 1, because if you're not careful, and let's say that Anime Last Stand continues remodeling everything the same way that they did those One Piece characters, I am more than confident that the game would die. And I know they know that, which is why all their more newer models look very close to the source material. But yeah, that's stage 2. Now that we've gone over stage 1 and stage 2, let me go into the third and final stage, the most unfortunate one of them all. This is stage 3. Stage 3, the final stage, Anime Defenders. Stage 3 is when your game just becomes completely unrecognizable to a polarizing degree as to what these units are actually supposed to be. But like I said, where stage 2 and stage 3 differs, a stage 2 infected game can still go on to thrive and survive for a very long time with a dedicated community, as long as the developers play their cards right. As long as they don't make any drastic changes and continue having content updates and consistently making their player base happy, some remodels that are ugly won't kill a game, right? It's not a make or break type deal. But stage 3 is when, for a plethora of reasons, but we're going to use remodels specifically for the sake of this video, your game is just killed off. You know, whether it be one bad decision after the other, too many units were remodeled, people fell out of love with the game. Stage 3 is what I deem to be the final stage of the infection, and personally, you can't come back from stage 3. Once you make it into stage 3 and you go full Anime Defenders mode, you're cooked. In fact, I'm gonna put up some examples on the screen of models that are really great examples of stage 3. Some of them are gonna be straight from Anime Defenders. You might recognize them. I used to use these guys when I made videos on the game. I would cover that game, I would make videos on these units. Can you tell that this is supposed to be Toji? Or can you tell that this is supposed to be Asta? Obviously not, because we're in the late stages, right? You can't really tell what unit is supposed to be what. I think Anime Adventures and Anime Defenders are the two best examples of stage 3. And the thing about Anime Adventures, yes, they do still have a lot of units that look recognizable. Like I said, it's a culmination of things. And the fact that its player count is lower than Anime Defenders right now is all the proof that I need to know that the game is cooked. It's in stage 3. But I will show you some of the funnier models. Editor put in Stitches. Who am I talking to? I'm the editor. We'll see if I'm too lazy to put it in or not. But you guys know who Stitches is, right? The famous Buggy remodel that just makes him look like a crackhead. It doesn't even look like Buggy anymore. I'll also put some more in here like Frieza. Well, I guess this is Frieza now. Brook turned into the fucking skull emoji. He doesn't even look like Brook anymore. And sometimes they would just outright give up. They would just put a blue silhouette of a Roblox PNG character, call it a day, and not even give us a real model. And that's stage 3 in a nutshell. So let's go over a brief recap of each and every stage now that we're nearing the end of the video. Stage 1 is when there's some noticeable differences, but the characters themselves are still very easy to recognize and tell apart as to what anime they're supposed to be in. Stage 2 is when you have drastic changes and very, very noticeable differences, but this doesn't necessarily kill a game. Stage 3 is when not only do the units and the models change so drastically that the game just becomes sort of unfun and unplayable, it shows in the player count, and the game ultimately dies off. With all that out of the way, I think that is it for today's video. Took a little longer to edit this one if you couldn't tell, but I did have this video idea in the works and I wanted to put it out, especially when I saw what happened with Anime Rangers. I thought they were a great example for stage 1, so I thought I had enough content to make the video. But with all that being said, that is going to be it from me. If you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to like, sub, comment, all that wonderful, wonderful stuff. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Anime Defenders effect. And that's it from me. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Stay tuned for more content, and we'll catch you in the next one.